We belong to God, the God of the living, even in the mystery of dying. The autumn season is a time where life around us seems to be dying. The trees are giving up the last of the leaves in order to create space for new life in spring. What we know for us humans is death is a certainty in our path of living. Yet death is not the final word. Our hope is in the God of life, the God of living, the God of resurrection. This gospel on this weekend, 2 weekends before the end of the liturgical year, Jesus encounters the Sadducees. These are religious leaders at the time of Jesus who did not believe in the resurrection. There's a second group of religious leaders called Pharisees who did believe in the resurrection. Well, the Sadducees challenged Jesus in an argument about marriage during this life and what happens when they die. The gospel tells the story of the Sadducees saying, here's a scenario, here's a problem. 7 brothers marry the same woman. One brother marries a woman, he dies. Then the second brother comes in, marries her, he dies, the third, all the way through the 7th. All the brothers die, they all are childless, and then finally the woman dies. And then they ask, well, who does this woman belong to? Because she married 7 brothers. And Jesus almost says to them, it's like, we're not property of each other. The reality is that we belong to God. He confronts their challenge by saying to them, it is God's faithfulness and this God of life and living that we belong to. It's not about whose property are we after death. The issue is we belong to God. The gospel is not about the issue of marriage and marriage beyond death. The issue is we belong to God. The focus is on our relationship with God. God is a God of life that draws us to a deeper life, a more abundant life, a life that is full of possibility, that readies us for new life. How are we with God? That's our most important relationship. Everything else falls into place. What is key here is that God is faithful no matter what. Yes, death is our reality, but death is not the end. It's our hope in the resurrection that moves us forward in living and following and deepening our relationship with this God of the living. So this week, how does the season of autumn remind us to ready ourselves for new life? How does it help us let go, die of things within us so that we can ready ourselves for hope in the resurrection, new life in us that gives us a glimpse of resurrection beyond our final destination and threshold of death? What do we need to ready ourselves for God? There's one more reading in one of the readings in today's gospel weekend of readings. It's from Paul's letter to the Thessalonians, chapter 2, verse 16, where he prays for the community of the Thessalonian community in that hope of resurrection, in that courage of the struggle, in that prayer for one another. And let that be our prayer this week as Paul prays. May the Lord direct our hearts to the love of God and to the endurance of Christ. And may God comfort our hearts and strengthen us in every way, in every good deed and word. Amen.